He's gambling away our retirement money!
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to lucky episode number 13 of the Price Check series. My name is Octavian, and for those of you new to this series just coming in on this episode, well, let me go over the premise for you. I grab a full stash tab worth of unidentified loot, as you can see right here, go through it, ID it all, price check it, give my reasoning behind my decisions as far as my pricing is concerned, and then upload it here for you guys to see and potentially learn from, as well as criticize. I've learned things from you guys, as well as I hope you've learned things from me. Now, let's get underway without any further ado. As I say at the start of most of these episodes, there is a very real potential that this entire stash tab worth of gear is not going to have any particular gems standing out at me, especially as you go later into the league and items become more and more demanding in terms of what they need to have as roles to be able to sell easily, because more and more people have their builds put together and have all the gear that they want already and are now looking for upgrades, so you have to have really good pieces of gear in order to sell them. But to hedge against that, I do have some items set aside for every episode that I know have some amount of value that I'm going to thoroughly price check at the end. So you can always stick around to the end if you want to, or skip right to it. But, you know, for those of you who like the full story, let's get started. 7 to 11 fizz, a little bit of life, a little bit of cold, a little bit of strength to help with that life. Even if this didn't have crafted life, this would actually be better. But, you know, it's actually not terrible as it is. It's just so low on life. How much life is that total? 31 plus 13's 40, barely 45 life, not even hitting 50. It's just got a lot of fizz and cold, which is good to combine together right now because of Frostblades and how popular it's been, though I think Frostblades is starting to fall out of popularity. It was a really popular league starter that a lot of people aren't playing as much of anymore. I think I'll just put it up for like 2 or 3 chaos. It might sell. It's low on resistances, low on life, but very heavy on damage. 47 life, some damage, no resistances, only 1 damage roll on an Iron Ring base, which isn't good. So 20 life, no bad. Crit multi while dual wielding is something I look out for. Any crit multi roll immediately gets my attention on a jewel, but without percent life, without other damage rolls, not something I want to be trying to sell. It's not going to be worth my time. Bad life roll, keep moving. No life roll, keep moving. 80 life, strength, some okay resistances. This isn't a base that you're really looking for these rolls on, though, so what we're going to do is throw a Vol Orb at this belt, maybe hit +1 endurance charge. If we do, it's still a little low on resists, but somebody could probably make that work. Good wide roll, nothing else. 72 life, chaos res, very niche stat. Not a lot of builds want chaos res, but, you know, it's nice to have a bit. Still, though, not a worthwhile amulet. Or helmet, even. Cast speed, pretty good roll. All res, but Wed does not work with cast speed. There's no life. It's not something that's going to sell. Bit of a lost cause. We could og this for life, and then maybe regal into something, but I wouldn't say it's worth the effort, time, currency, risk, all of those things. Pretty good int roll. Some lightning damage to attacks, but no life, no resists, no sell. Pretty good mantra to stick by when it comes to jewelry. Breach rings are interesting. The implicit on the breach ring is pretty much valueless all the time, but a really good breach ring is going to be worth quite a bit because there are people who exclusively farm Kayula breach stones or Zoff breach stones as well this league, since they might be looking for a Zoff's blood to drop, given how valuable that is. So, a really good breach ring with, in particular, some rolls that are really nice to double, like damage rolls are all really nice to double. Resistance and life, they're nice, but they don't mean so much. Resistance, you already want to be capped, so doubling that doesn't do much. Life, a little bit more flat life is great, but your build should be able to handle it without needing that. What's best to double is rarity and damage rolls. So that's what you're really looking for on a breach ring in order to have it sell easily. 109 crit chance for spells, and some flat fire damage to spells. No cast speed, though. No explicit spell damage. I don't think this is quite good enough. And none of the things we're looking for. Though it does have a damage roll, it's very low, and ES is out of meta, and 1 good resist does not a good breach ring make. Breach rings are very, very, very demanding because their implicit is most of the time not useful. So you're either selling to a very small market, or you need to have a ring that, even without the implicit, is great. Spell damage while wielding a staff. That is a prefix, so we can't roll life onto this, so I don't think this is worth hogging, given how uncommon staff builds are. I see +1 to socketed gems, and that already grabs my attention. And then cold damage to attack, some resistances, but that +1 max ES roll just makes me so very sad. There's no room to craft anything. This is 6 mods already. You could, if you were feeling real lucky, you could throw in a null orb at this. If you get rid of that +1 to energy shield, then it might be worthwhile. Not many people are looking for +1 to socketed gems, though. 2 or 3, yes, but +1 doesn't quite do it for a lot of builds. I think I'm still going to try. Alright. And 7% increase. Yes. No. Minion block chance. Ruined that one. Interesting. We got a Regal. We must have sold this full set of loot somehow. By accident. So this one, I said I was going to put it for 2C, so let's just go ahead and list that. This belt we were going to vol and get increased area of effective area skills. Alright. Put that up for 2C as well, I guess. It's interesting implicit. And I'm still really not sure what to do with you. We're going to price check this at the end of the episode and see exactly the value of +1 to socketed gems. I don't think that that's really highly sought after because there's not a lot of things where... Like, I'm actually putting together a build that's going to want to use a +2 socketed gems ring for a Purity of Fire, and +1 wouldn't be enough for my build, so I imagine for a lot of other builds it wouldn't be enough either. But let's keep searching. See what else we find. A lot of jewels this time around. I've been leveling a few characters, and jewels are good at any level, so I'll pick them up even while leveling, and they'll go into price check episodes. By the way, eye level doesn't matter on jewels. You can roll any mod on any level of jewels, so always pick those up. Not any rolls I'm looking for on there. Yeah, nothing stands out to me on that ring either. 67 life is pretty decent, but the rest of these rolls are pretty valueless. Minion damage. Minion damage is pretty in meta right now. Again, it's a prefix, so I can't aug into life, but maybe just auging into a second damage stat might be worth regaling. It depends on how synergistic it is. Burning damage is really nice. I'm actually I'm tempted to annul and then try and aug for life. That would be really, really unlikely to happen, though. So I think this is just a lost cause. 36 life is way too low. Crit chance, high fire damage roll on an int base. Nah. Mainly because the kind of build that would want to... There's no life, there's no resists. Well, very little resists. So that initially is a red flag. Like, this is not going to sell. But also, the kind of build that's going to use that flat fire roll is Brutus Lead Sprinkler most of the time. That's like the most popular and powerful build in meta that would use it. And they want to stack strength, so they don't want an int-based amulet. And they're probably using the amulet slot for Zoph's Blood anyways. Wed, lots of strength, some fizz. If this had had a life roll, this would be really good. It's still close to being okay, but I don't think so. It's a lot of local LE damage, but not very useful. Nothing good there. It's a prefix. Accuracy, ES, Dex, and a resist. It's all kind of lowish. That could sell. It's not a very spectacular ring, but I think it could sell. Area damage cast via the lightning skills. I mean, that looks synergistic for something like Stormcall, right? But your chances of regaling into life, which you'd want on that jewel, not very high. Regaling into a 3rd damage stat, not very high. And people don't really buy 2-prop jewels. Not this late in the league, at least. Maybe in the first few days. Damage over time, fizz damage. No. 2-prop damage jewels just don't really sell very reliably. Accuracy, fire damage, dex, fizz damage, but no life, no resists. Damage, spell damage while dual wielding, and poison duration. Not a lot of poisoning spells out there anymore with the removal of double dipping. In a previous meta, maybe this would have been used in a cast while channeling Firestorm with Consuming Dark and another dual wielding weapon, maybe even another Consuming Dark, I don't know. But nowadays, without double dipping, no. Accuracy, life, dex, and flat fire. That's a nice combination of stats, but the life and accuracy are too low. Crit multiplier, mana regen. All attributes totem life, that's not very synergistic at all. No movement speed, no life. Trap throwing speed is useless. Spell damage attacks with wands, not a good combo. Not synergistic. Strength not worth augmenting in my opinion. And fire damage is a prefix. And it's not, I don't know. I don't really like augmenting on prefixes because the bestial hit is a 2 damage stat jewel. And as I've said, those aren't very valuable, honestly. But I can augment them just kind of to, I guess, demonstrate that to some degree. Here. It's not like augments are really money. Attack and cast speed, damage over time. I mean, previously that might have been used in an ignite build of some sort, but I actually haven't seen any relevant ignite builds since the start of 3.0. Neither of those are very good, though I'm sure that something can be done with them. I have not seen anyone playing one. So this is just going to go up for literally 1 chaos. It's a pretty mediocre ring that's kind of out of meta, but we'll give it the chance to sell. Let's see what else we've got in our hands. Always seems to be about 1.5 or 2.5 inventories worth. No life, bad resists. Lots of local mods, not really anything useful there. Attack speed is something you look for on a wand, potentially, for a alley wander or a fizz wander, but it's a low roll and doesn't have anything else it would need. Crit multi is again something that's good on wands, as is cast speed, but nothing too great there. 46 ES is pretty high. Some accuracy could be good. Sadly, a low flat fizz roll, but it's there. And some all res, and even the mana could be useful. That's not a terrible ring. It's not in meta by any means, but it's not terrible. And off-meta rings will sell to the right buyers. Lots of stats, sadly undone by its other rolls. No life, very low resists, nothing to speak of. 69 life, 53 dex, but terrible resists on a bad base. And nothing doing. Alright. I'm going to put that up for just 4 chaos to start with here. And let's look at 1 or 2 of the items that I've set aside here. First one, let's go into Soul Coil, the ring that we found that I wanted to do a bit more of an in-depth price check on in the big dump. So let's transition over to the path of Exile.Trade window, PoE.Trade, and look for +1 to socketed gems, and specifically not 2 or 3. So plus level of socketed gems 1, but also maximum 1. Look for an unset ring. And what have we got on here otherwise? We've got no life, but and no room to craft it. So that is its biggest flaw, and it's quite a big one. But it does have 1 good stat, so actually, since the type of stat probably doesn't matter for most builds, though a lot of the builds that would want a +2 socketed gems ring are going to be on like the left or top of the tree. So like Guardians or Necromancers, who are going to want that juiced up aura. So Dex is actually a pretty good one to have, since there's not a lot of Dex in that area of the tree. But let's see what just any good stat is worth. Minimum 50 on one of these. So we're going to count 1, but also max of 1. Resistance is actually pretty good at 70% pseudo total elemental resistances. So we're going to start at 60. Look for a range up to, say, 85. Be a little generous on the upward bound. And the cold damage to attacks is relevant, I'd say, on a ring like this, mostly for proccing LE Overload. So the amount isn't that big a deal. We'll just look for something with elemental damage to attacks, and there's nothing actually listed. I didn't mess up any of these searches, right? So let me just make sure that that is actually the same wording. Yeah. Okay. Let's check offline as well. 1 result. Unpriced, and it has a crafted life roll, so it doesn't have a natural life roll like ours doesn't as well. Though ours doesn't have room to craft the life roll because of the +1 ES that it has. Here, let me transition back to game so you guys can see what I'm talking about. That +1 ES is killing this ring right now. It's taking up a prefix slot that a crafted life roll could go into, or even a crafted ES roll. And that's why I'm tempted to throw an annulment orb at this. However, I want to do a little more research before we do that. So, before we commit the currency to do that. So let's see if we can find any more information on this. We can lower the stat down to 40, because that'll still be a fairly relevant amount of whatever given stat. And let's see, 17 results. I like that a bit better. And this would basically be our ring minus the ES roll, but no LE damage to attacks. So that's somewhat relevant for proccing Elemental Equilibrium potentially. It's also similar. 2 weeks at 5C hasn't sold, though we don't know how long he's been offline. Let's check online. Swap back to that, see if there's one around. There's 2 around, 35 and 40C. This has been up for a week without selling, and this guy is evidently online sometimes, though that could possibly be because it's 44 ES, but let's see what happens if we just up this to 2, potentially. And if we scroll down to where you have +2 to socketed gems, they're all on price. That's not helpful, but maybe if we go up to 3. I imagine if we find one with +3, it'll be very, very, very pricey. Yes. Yes, indeed. So the difference between +1 and +3 is a huge deal for a lot of builds, which is why I don't think it's going to be worth throwing an annulment at this. But you know what? I like to gamble, and for the sake of gambling, we're going to go ahead and use one, because I've got too many sitting around for running beachheads. Goodbye, yes. Damn it, we lost a resist. I mean, maybe another one? Maybe we get rid of the ES? Getting rid of the resist was actually a pretty bad outcome. I would have taken getting rid of the cold damage or the ES, because both of those would have freed up a prefix and let me place life on it. And the cold damage isn't strictly necessary to who I think this would want to buy this ring, but let's try one more time. And we lost the thing which makes the ring valuable at all. So, goodbye. Aren't annulment orbs fun? Anyways. Let's see what else we've got. I don't remember what any of these things have, so we're just going to pick one of them at random and go for the diamond ring, because rings are cool. Oh, yes. This is one that I self-crafted a little while ago. That actually has 3 mods. It may look like it has 2 to the untrained eye, but rarity can be both a prefix and a suffix, and if a ring rolls both suffix rarity and prefix rarity, it'll just combine into one number, but it is actually 2 rarity mods that are just added together in the explicit, which is a little frustrating, but you know, that's Path of Exile for you. I don't think that this actually has very much value, but we're just going to see what the value of a diamond ring with that much rarity is to begin with. The reason why I set this aside is mainly because I wanted to highlight that for people who might not know that that's something which can happen. If you have, there's very, very few rolls that do it. I think rarity is one of the only ones where there's a prefix version of rarity and a suffix version of rarity, and if you get both, they'll combine. I think stun and block recovery can do that too, or rather, you can get ES and then you can get hybrid ES, which is ES plus a little bit of stun and block recovery, and the 2% ES values will combine, and so it's hard to tell that you've got both rolls. But let's just see what a diamond ring with 45% rarity and 1 resist goes for. Nope. Not cold. I don't need to search for cold twice. Lightning resistance count 1, minimum 25. 10 results. We're starting at 10C, and this doesn't have any life roll on it. However, it has been up for 2 weeks without selling. Rarity gear, I would say, doesn't sell very fast. There's not a huge market for it. This is overpriced, in my opinion. 2 weeks, 50C without selling. 38 life, 40 life. It is an interesting item, though. We could go ahead and maybe craft a bit of life onto it. I don't think it's quite worth throwing an Exalt at, but Exalts are really cheap, so this is something you could potentially, if you wanted to try and make the perfect rarity diamond ring, you could try and Exalt a high tier life roll onto it. You'd want to block probably a prefix that you don't want. I don't Exalt items very often, but yeah, let's transition back into game. I think we can pretty reliably sell this for at least like 10 to 15 chaos and probably more, just judging by these prices here as we scale up from 10 to 50 pretty quickly. So it seems like it's worth throwing the life at, and even if not, I might want to use it myself in the future because it's a really interesting ring. 35 life. We hit the bottom roll. That's unfortunate. Anyways, that's going to be it for me for the night, guys. I hope you enjoyed episode 13. Try not to walk under any ladders or piss off any black cats, because just watching this episode has probably given you your dose of bad luck for the day. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed, you can always find more Octavian every day over on my stream. It's linked in the description below, and I do stream nightly, so there's plenty more Octavian to come. As well as that, I release these price check videos every other day, roughly. If I have other videos in the works, sometimes they'll put these ones on the back burner, but I release them fairly consistently, so you can always subscribe to the YouTube channel to catch them when they come out. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you next time.